you can hear snoring during the middle of the video, that is why. She is sleeping directly below. Oh, you're gonna be awake now? This is Kennedy. Charlie's over there under a blanket, but the pugs do snore very, very loudly. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be another declutter video. I'm going to go through and declutter face products. I have foundations, primers, powders, and then concealers. I'm just going to go through and remove the products that I don't use. I thought that I kept this section of my makeup collection pretty curated, but honestly, I have way too many products in here, and I just want to get rid of the ones that I don't use. Some of these foundations are the wrong shade. Some of these primers are things that I don't reach for. So it's time to cut it down a little bit and just make it a little bit more organized. When I open the drawer, I just want to see products that I use and I love. So I thought I would film it for you. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I have a lot of declutter videos on my channel, so I'll link my playlist in the description box below. Okay, I think I'm going to start with foundations. Let me move these primers over so all of the foundations are together. Okay, let's kick it off with the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop Full Coverage Foundation. This one is in the shade Fair. I think it's the lightest shade. This one is actually significantly too light for me. I tried to wear it once to test it out because honestly, I don't even know if the formula is good because I haven't worn it. I'm actually just going to declutter this one, unfortunately. I should have exchanged it when I first bought it, but because I didn't, I can declutter it. I am going to keep the Too Faced Peach Perfect Foundation. I have the shade Snow. I believe this one is a good match for me. It's actually in my everyday makeup drawer right now because it's been a long time since I've used it. So I'm giving myself another chance to try it out, rediscover it. If I don't fall back in love with it, then I'll declutter it after like the 2 months. But for now, I am going to hang on to it because I have enjoyed it in the past. It's just been a little while since I've used it. I really like the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Full Coverage Foundation. This is actually one of my favorite formulas. I have not been able to find my perfect shade. I was just at Ulta the other day looking through them, but they were sold out of the shades that I thought I would wear. So I am determined to find my perfect shade. The shade 3 is a little bit too pink toned, and the shade 6.5 is a little bit too light. It doesn't match me perfectly, and even though I love the formula, I have a hard time with the shades. So I do need to repurchase this product in my perfect shade, but in the meantime, I will just pass these two along to somebody else. I have 2 of the Hourglass Vanish Seamless Stick Foundation. So these have stickers on them. A lot of you guys ask me why I have stickers on my products. I usually put stickers on the products that are in my project pan just so I make more of an effort to use them over other products in my makeup collection. So these are from older project pans. This first one is in the shade Ivory. I have that much left. This one is actually a little bit too dark for me. I do, again, mix some of these together. I could probably make this one work during the summertime, but this is not a foundation formula that I reach for in the summertime, just because it's really on the like hydrating, moisturizing side. This one is in the shade Vanilla, and this one does work. And like I said, if I mix them together, I can get them to work, but I haven't reached for this in a long time. And since we are heading into summer, I'm almost finished with them. I've had them for a significant amount of time. I'm actually going to get rid of them. Okay, this one is the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Foundation. I have the shade 3.5 Fair. I really like this formula because it is more on the lightweight side, and I would say it's more of like a medium coverage foundation. So it is a nice option on days when I don't want a super full coverage foundation. I do have the ColourPop No Filter Foundation. This one is in the shade Light 50. I actually just decluttered this fairly recently, but I think I had multiple shades. I want to love this foundation. The finish is so beautiful when you first apply it, but it just doesn't last on my skin very well. It breaks down on me. It looks worse the longer that I wear it. So after a few hours, it just doesn't look very good on my skin. And I've tried so many times to love this. I think they released it last summer, and I've tried it so many times since then, but it just doesn't work for me, so it is time to declutter this one as well. I do have the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Foundation. I have 2 shades. I have L1 and L3. This is currently my favorite foundation. I love wearing it on its own. I love mixing it in with my Fenty foundation. And when I wear this one on its own, I mix these 2 shades together, and that matches me perfectly. So I am going to hang on to both of these. I think I just uploaded a video using this, so I'll link that in the description box below if you want to check it out. This one is the Covergirl Outlast Stay Fabulous 3-in-1 Foundation. I have the shade 810 Classic Ivory. I really like this foundation. It used to be my go-to foundation like years and years ago, and then I went cruelty-free, and then Covergirl went cruelty-free, so I rediscovered it recently, and I've just been enjoying it a lot. So I am going to hang on to this one as well. I have the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation. This one is in the shade 10 Light Beige. This one matches me really well during the summertime, but it's a little bit too dark during the fall and winter, which is fine because it is more of a full coverage matte foundation. So it is a formula that I tend to reach for in the summertime. So I love this foundation. I will definitely hang on to it. Over here, I have the Smashbox Studio Skin 15-Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation. So I do have 3 different shades. They sent me the entire shade range a while ago, and I donated the majority of them because obviously I didn't need all of them, but I did hang on to a couple. So the one that I'm currently wearing is this one, 1.05. Okay, so this one is 1.05, this one is 1.1, and this one is 1.2. Honestly, they are very, very similar. This one is significantly lighter, so this is the one that I'm going to keep for now. I don't know which one is going to match me better in the summer once I get a little bit of a tan. I don't feel like I need to keep both of them because they are pretty similar. I think I'll keep 1.1. This one's a little bit more yellow toned. This one is a little bit warmer. So I think 1.1 will work well for me during the summertime, and then I will declutter 1.2. I'm going to move all the ones that I'm keeping over here for now. Okay, so I have 3 of the ColourPop, what are these called? No Filter Stick Foundation. I have Fair 25, Fair 27, and Light 50. So I'll swatch these for you. So here's Fair 25, Fair 27, and Light 50. I think that I was mixing I was either wearing Fair 25 or mixing Fair 25 and Light 50. Honestly, I don't reach for this foundation. Again, it's one that I wanted to love. I've tried wearing it and it looks really beautiful on the skin, but again, I don't find that it really lasts well on my skin, and that's what I typically go for. When I wear foundation, I want it to last throughout the day, and I don't feel like this one does stay in place as well as I want it to. It's definitely a good alternative to like the Hourglass foundation because it is significantly less expensive, but even still, I think that I'm kind of over stick foundations for the time being. I just prefer more of a liquid formula, so I'm actually going to declutter these as well. I have these Catrice Prime & Fine Makeup Transforming Drops. These are supposed to be essentially, they're supposed to lighten your foundation. I think they do work well. They definitely lighten the majority of my foundations, but I find that when I use this product with a foundation that's too dark, like the Catrice HD Liquid, it almost changes the texture of the foundation, unless I'm using it with a foundation that has a similar texture. So because of that, I don't typically use this. I think they do work. I just personally don't use it very often, so I'm going to declutter this. So I do have 2 deluxe size samples of the Healthy Foundation from Physicians Formula. I have LW2 and then LN3. I was keeping these in my collection because I figured if I went out of town, I could throw them in my makeup bag. They would be great, travel friendly. I don't think that I need them though, because honestly, I do have the full-sized bottle. I don't typically travel with like more of a light coverage foundation. So even though I love this, it doesn't typically leave my vanity. So I think I'm just going to hang on to the full-size bottle and declutter these 2 travel versions. This one is the Covergirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir. I haven't even tried this yet. I purchased it last year, like the end of last year, but I just was testing out a bunch of other products, and honestly, I completely forgot that I had it. So I am going to test this out. I know so many of you guys love it. Okay, these are the Isden Sudix Skin Drops, which I love. This actually reminds me a lot of the Catrice foundation. It's literally just like a liquid pigment, and I really enjoy this. Sometimes I would use it to mix into foundations that were a little bit too light. I've had this for so long, and no matter how much I like shake it up, it ends up separating again. So I think at this point, it's just expired. Even though I love this product, you know, if something's expired, I don't want to keep it in my collection. So I am going to declutter this. Okay, I have 2 of the e.l.f. Flawless Finish foundations. I have 2 different shades. So I have Porcelain, and then I also have Alabaster. So let me swatch these. Okay, so this one is Alabaster. This one is Porcelain. This is a lot darker than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to keep Porcelain. I haven't worn this foundation in a long time, but I definitely want to wear it again before I declutter it because I want to do like a full face e.l.f. video, and I remember liking it back in the day. So I'm going to declutter this one. It's a little bit too orangey for me, but I think that this one should be a good match. So again, this one is Porcelain, this one is Alabaster, but I know they have a lot more shades on the website, so they might have changed the shade name since I've tried it, but I'm going to hang on to this one and declutter the other one. Okay, this one is the Tarte Amazonian Clay Full Coverage Foundation. I have the shade Fair Beige. I've had this one for such a long time. I don't think that I've used it once in the past year. I keep telling myself that I'm going to put it in my everyday makeup drawer and use it and rediscover it, but I have enough foundation for now, as you can see. So I think I'm going to declutter this one just because I've had it for such a long time and I haven't reached for it, so I don't foresee myself reaching for it anytime soon. I'm definitely keeping my Fenty Beauty foundations. These ones are the Pro Filter Soft Matte Longwear Foundations. I have two shades. I have 120 and 150. And again, neither one of these are like a perfect match for me. When I mix them together, they work well. So eventually when I finish them up, I will go try to find like my perfect match in store. But because I can make them work for me and I do love the formula, I will hang on to these two for now. So I'm going to declutter my Urban Decay All Nighter foundations, which is crazy. This was my favorite foundation for such a long time. I raved about it on my channel and I do like it, but at this point there are other foundations that I reach for over this one. I rarely touch this one. This one's in the shade 0.5. I mean, I almost used it up. And at this point, it's a little bit too light for me, so I definitely don't need to hang on to this one. This one is actually in my project pan. It's in the shade 1.0, but as you can see, that's all the progress that I've made on it this entire year, like that tiny amount. I just don't reach for it. I don't really like mixing it in with other foundations at this point, and because I have other foundations that I like better, again, I just don't think I need to hang on to it any longer. So I'm going to declutter these two. Maybe I'll revisit it again at a later time, but for now, I'm going to declutter them. The Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation and concealer is actually in my everyday makeup drawer right now. I haven't tested this one out yet, so I'm actually going to try it out and see if it works well for me before I decide whether to keep it or declutter it. The last two foundations in my collection are the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundations. I have two shades. I have Porcelain and Soft Ivory. I always tell myself that I like this foundation, but again, I just don't reach for it. I think it's nice that it is really affordable. Of course, it's cruelty-free, but I just don't find myself using it a whole lot. I think it looks nice on the skin. It does have a very strong scent, but I think when I'm going for more of a light coverage foundation, there are other options in my collection that I'd rather use. So I'm just going to declutter these as well. All right, let me reorganize these. Okay, so they don't fit perfectly in one section, but the truth is I'll have a lot of these in my everyday makeup drawer, so I'm okay with like having just like one or two extra that are stacked right now, because once I take, you know, my go-to foundations out and put them back in my everyday makeup drawer, I'll have a little bit more space, but I was able to clear out this section, which is great. So let's move on to primers. So let me start with a few primers that I'm definitely going to keep. I'm definitely keeping the e.l.f. Oil Control Primer Mist. This is one of my favorites during the summertime. I find that it keeps my skin from getting super oily and it's very, very lightweight. It's just such a good option if you have oily skin or if it's really hot outside. I'm also going to keep the Ole Henriksen Banana Bright Face Primer. This is somewhat new to my collection, but it's a really nice lotion-like primer that leaves your skin looking and feeling so smooth. I'm also going to keep the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer. This one, again, is a little bit newer to my collection, but this one's really interesting. I did not think I was going to like it, but it really does grip onto your foundation so well. So it keeps your foundation in place. It's not sticky. It's really, really comfortable, and I've been a big fan of this one lately. So I'm going to hang on to this one as well. I am going to keep the Flower Beauty In Your Prime Hydrating Primer. This one is a nice alternative to the Smashbox Primerizer. It's definitely not the same texture, but it does leave your skin feeling very hydrated, very smooth, so I really enjoy this one. The Flower Beauty Supernova Celestial Skin Elixir is a really good option when I want more of like an oil feeling primer. I usually reach for this one during the fall and winter if I'm struggling with a little bit of dryness, or I just find that my skin could use like an extra dose of hydration. This one is my favorite. All right, let's kind of go through the rest of them one by one. So the CoverFX Blurring Primer was actually in my everyday makeup drawer not too long ago. I think it does a good job at making your skin look really smooth, and if you have large, obvious pores, it does kind of fill them in. I find that when I want more of a smoothing primer, I'll reach for something like the Ole Henriksen one. So I've only used this a few times. I could definitely pass it on to somebody else who would enjoy it more than I do. This one is from Pop Beauty. It is the Zero Shine Prime Mattifying Primer. I actually haven't tried this one. I think that it's still sealed. I'm going to keep this one and test it out before I declutter it. I like to have one or two mattifying primers in my collection, especially with summer right around the corner. So because I haven't tested this one out, I do want to give it a shot before I decide to keep or declutter it. So for now, I will hang on to this one too. This one's from e.l.f. It is open. I don't know if it's broken. I can't seem to get the lid off. If I got pliers, I could probably do it. But to be honest with you guys, I tried this one out like a month or two ago, and the formula was a little bit different, probably because it's been open in my collection. So I think I'm actually going to declutter this one. It is a little bit of a thicker, heavier primer, so I just don't find that I reach for it a whole lot, and because it's, I don't need it. It's time to declutter it. I have two Smashbox primers. I have the Photo Finish Pore Minimizing and then also the regular foundation primer. It's been a really long time since I've used the original. I just haven't used this in a really long time, so I think I'm actually going to declutter this one because, again, when I want my skin feeling smooth, I'll reach for this one or the Flower Beauty one. This one is the Pore Minimizing Primer. The Pore Minimizing Primer feels similar on the skin, but I think this one does a better job at like filling in large, obvious pores. So I think I'm going to hang on to this one for now and declutter the original. The CoverGirl Outlast All Day Primer is actually in my everyday makeup drawer right now. Again, this is one that I haven't tested, so I am going to hang on to this one until I get a chance to test it out and decide if it's worth keeping. I have a little mini Cover FX Mattifying Primer. I've had this forever, and I haven't used it. Whenever I have something in my collection and I haven't reached for it for months, it's time to declutter it because what are the chances that I'm actually going to use it over the next few months? So I'll just pass this one along. So I have the Spotlight Primer from Physicians Formula, and I also have the Becca Backlight Priming Filter. I think that these are identical. The formulas are a little bit different. The Becca one is a little bit more lightweight, but they look the same on the skin. I think I'm actually going to keep the Becca one. I mean, I would say if you haven't purchased these, to save your money and purchase the one from Physicians Formula because it is a really good alternative. But because I have both of them and I like the Becca one better, I am going to keep the Becca one. I also have the Becca First Light Priming Filter, which does a really good job at keeping your skin really moisturized, really smooth. This one is more of like a glowy, shimmery illuminator primer, and this one is more of just like a moisturizing primer. So I am going to hang on to this one as well, and I'm also going to keep my Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. This is one of my favorite primers of all time. It leaves your skin feeling so silky and so smooth. The NYX Angel Veil is so similar to the Hourglass foundation, and I like using both of them. When I travel, I actually take the NYX Angel Veil over the Hourglass primer. I don't typically save products just for traveling, but because this is a glass bottle and it is expensive, I prefer to take this one with me. So I am going to hang on to this one as well because I do use it for that purpose. I have this primer from The Ordinary. It is the High Adherence Silicone Primer. It reminds me a lot of the Smashbox primer that I showed you guys earlier, and that's not really like my go-to primer formula. So because of that, I'm going to declutter this one as well. I have two primer sticks from Wet n Wild. I have the Luminous primer stick and the Matte primer stick. I bought these at the beginning of the year because I wanted to do a video on new drugstore products and I didn't get around to filming it. So I don't think I've talked about these on my channel. I think they work well. I don't have an issue with them. I've only used them like once or twice, but I don't typically reach for stick primers. I don't know why. I think I just tend to prefer more of like a liquidy primer. I'm very specific about primers these days, so I just don't reach for them a whole lot. So I'm actually going to pass these along. I have a mini Smashbox Primerizer, which again, I do take with me when I travel. It's perfect because the other, like the original Primerizer is in like a full glass bottle. So I'm going to hang on to this. I do have two mini Smashbox primer oils. I'm actually going to declutter these. It works really well, but I don't wear a primer oil enough to justify keeping these in my collection or really any other primer oil other than one. Because of that, I think I'm actually going to declutter this one as well. I really like this product, and I hate to declutter products that work perfectly well, but like I said, I don't wear primer oils enough to keep multiple options in my collection, and I really love the Flower Beauty one, so I'm going to declutter this one. This one is the Rosé All Day Oil-Free Serum from Physicians Formula. This one is interesting. It really is a different texture than any other primer in my collection because it's more of a serum. I think they technically market this as a skincare product, but I personally like using it before foundation because it's not oily, it's not overly moisturizing, it's not mattifying, it's such an interesting texture. I guess it's kind of like a serum, but it has more of a matte finish than a serum does, and it has a little bit of like a rosy pink hue. So I am going to hang on to this one. I just have two left. I have the Touch in Sol No Problem Primer, which I really like. This is somewhat new to my collection. I am going to keep this one a little bit longer. This one is the Catrice Light Correcting Serum Primer. I haven't actually tried this. Let me just swatch a little on the back of my hand. Ooh, this is pretty. So it has like a golden bronze hue. This looks really pretty. I feel like it might be a little bit too dark for my skin, but it also leaves your skin looking smooth and glowy. I definitely want to try this one out, so I'm not going to declutter this one until I give it a fair shot. Okay, let me just rearrange these a little bit. So the primers are still taking up 2 sections, but I'm okay with that. I just like everything spread out so I can see what I have, and it was just like piled. So I am okay with what I have. I think that I still might have a few too many, but we'll revisit it at the end of summer, and then I'll do more of like a sit-down declutter where I just go through and show you the products I decided to declutter. Okay, so I have concealers right here. I honestly don't think I'm going to get rid of a ton of concealers, but we'll see. So I have the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. I have 2 shades. I have Snow and Almond. This is my go-to concealer. It gives really, really good coverage. It's not a matte concealer. It's more of like a satin finish, but it's really comfortable on the skin, and I love it. I wear this one pretty much every single day unless I'm like testing out a different formula or I want a lighter concealer, but in general, this is my go-to. I do have the e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer in the shade Light Sand. I've really been enjoying this one. It is more of a full coverage matte concealer. It's really affordable. It's like $5 or $6, so I am going to hang on to this one. But I think I'm going to declutter the NYX HD Concealer. I don't think I've reached for it again for like over a year, so at this point, I just need to declutter this one. I do have the Urban Decay All Nighter Concealer. I actually think I have this in a few shades. Okay, I have 4 of these. I don't know why I have 4. I think that I must have gotten them in PR and then maybe I just swatched a few shades and couldn't decide which one to keep. I'm actually going to declutter all 4 of these. I actually have the shade Fair Warm in my project pan, but I've used it quite a bit. I would say I'm probably halfway done with this one, but I just don't enjoy using it, and I have other concealers that I like better. So whenever that happens, I just need to declutter the product. It's something that I have to force myself to use, and I just don't want to do that. So I'm going to declutter all 4 of these and just take this one out of my project pan. I'm going to keep the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Full Coverage Concealer. I have the lightest shade. This one is a nice option when I just want to wear more natural makeup and I don't want a super full coverage concealer. I'm currently in the process of testing out the Tarte Shape Tape. I mean, I've used it and I used to love it back in the day, but it's been such a long time since it's been a staple for me. So I am wearing the shade, I think that I'm currently using the shade Fair Neutral. So I am going to declutter the shade Fair just because I don't need both of them. If I decide it's a favorite for me, I mean, I have so much concealer in this one tube that it will last me quite a while, and I just think this shade in general is a little bit too light. So I'll hang on to Fair Neutral for now and declutter Fair. This is the Hourglass Veil Retouching Fluid. This isn't technically a concealer. It's an interesting product. So when you wear foundation throughout the day and you need to like retouch your foundation if it looks a little bit heavy or a little bit cakey in an area, this is so interesting. You can like apply this over the foundation and just like pat it in, and it looks so natural. It just makes everything look really smooth, really even. So I do like this. I forgot I had it. This one is in the shade Natural. I am going to keep it, but I need to move it to my everyday makeup drawer. I'll just put it over here for now, but that is a good product. I have my Fenty concealer in the shade 150. This is one of my favorites. I actually love wearing this concealer as foundation. I'll just take a very small amount and blend it out all over my face. And because it is more of like a matte finish, it looks really great on my oily skin, but I do like using it as a concealer as well. It's not my favorite concealer formula, but I do like it and I will continue to use it. Then I have quite a few ColourPop concealers in here. The ColourPop No Filter Concealer, again, is one of my favorites. I do wear this one as foundation as well. Again, I'll just take a small amount and kind of spot conceal and blend it out, and it gives really good coverage. It stays in place so well. It's one of my favorites, especially during the summertime. But I don't know that all of these shades work really well for me. So I have Fair 04, Fair 05, this one is Light Neutral 15, and then this one is Medium Dark 34. I'm going to declutter Medium Dark 34. That one is way too dark. Even when I mix it in with like a super light foundation, it just gives my skin a little bit of like an orangey tone. I think I'm going to keep the other 3 shades though. These 2 are probably a little bit too light, but if I mix them in, I'll be able to make them work. Okay, moving on to powder. I don't really foresee myself decluttering a lot of these. I feel like I keep my powder collection very curated. Even though I have quite a few, I am like, powder is one of my favorites. I use them for like all different purposes. So I have the Milani Conceal and Perfect Shine Proof Powder in the shade Fair. This one is more of like a full coverage matte powder. It's not something that I reach for a whole lot on like a daily basis, but there are very specific instances where I do reach for this. This one is the Urban Decay All Nighter Waterproof Setting Powder. It is one of my go-tos during the summertime. It's too dark for me during the fall and the winter, but I don't need it during the fall and the winter. It just keeps my skin looking really matte and it really is like a shine proof powder. So I am going to keep this one. I have two translucent powders. This one is from e.l.f. It is the Perfect Finish HD powder. I actually haven't tried this one out. I might have tried it a long time ago, but I wanted to test it and see if it was a dupe for the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores Pressed. The Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten Foundation is in my project pan. I did hit pan on it. Finally, this is like a never-ending powder, but I do really enjoy it. It's a great powder foundation, or it's nice on days when I'm wearing like concealer as foundation because I'll just use this to set everything in place and it gives me a little bit more coverage. I actually haven't tried this Catrice Light Illusion Loose Powder. It is a yellow powder, but again, I do want to test it out before I decide if it is worth keeping in my collection. So I'm going to hang on to this one. I'm actually just going to save you guys some time. I'm going to keep the rest of the powders. I'll go through them really quickly just to show you what I have, but if I don't like a powder, I really just declutter it after I use it right away. I do like all of these, so I will continue to use them. So if you are done watching, then thank you guys so much for watching. I'll kind of do like a before and after at the end of the video, but I'll just share the rest of the powders first. This one is the Hourglass Veil Translucent Setting Powder. It's a nice finishing powder. It's very lightweight. It's not overly matte, so that one is a nice option. I have the Essence All About Matte Fixing Compact Powder, which is just a true like pressed matte powder. And then I have the Essence Brighten Up Banana Powder, which is a nice yellow toned powder. This one is the Covergirl Outlast All Day Powder. I have the shade 810. This one looks nice on the skin, but I would say it's probably my least favorite out of all of them. I do use it and I think it works well. It's more of a matte powder, but it's not really my favorite. Like once I use this one up, I won't repurchase it, but I don't hate it enough to declutter it. The Catrice Primum Fine Mattifying Powder is nice. Again, it's a nice lightweight translucent powder, really smooth. And then I have the Flower Beauty Light Illusion, which I'm almost finished with. This is currently my favorite. I also have the Charlotte Tilbury powder. I don't know where that one is. That one might be in my project pan drawer. The Urban Decay Velvetizer is a great mix-in medium, and it's also great to, I use it to set my concealer. It's not the purpose of it, but it does work well. And then the Too Faced Peach Perfect is a good loose matte powder. Okay, then finishing up over here, I have a few products from Sweat Cosmetics. So I have their translucent powder, and then I also have their mineral foundation in 100. I'm actually going to declutter the mineral foundation because when I wear this, I always prefer the translucent powder. Okay guys, so these are the products that I decided to declutter. I have an entire drawer full of foundations, which is kind of crazy. Like, I did not realize I had so many foundations in my collection. These are all foundations that I love, and honestly, if I was to grab any of these, I would be completely happy. So I'm glad that I got rid of the clutter, essentially, and just, you know, a lot of these don't match me. I don't need to keep them. And then this one is full of concealers and mostly primers. So I feel like I did a pretty good job. I wasn't really looking to get rid of, you know, my entire collection, just products that I really don't use very often. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with a new one. Bye.